Clifford here, your host of the Mind Over Market segment. Now, as usual, I am joined by Jordan Mauer. Jordan and I are looking to help you attain clarity so that you can achieve more in the markets. Jordan, how are you going today?
I'm well. The sun's shining, it's great weather, and I'm back again for another episode.
Is it a fresh new day?
It's a fresh new day.
That's the great way to go about our introduction, because today we're going to talk about fresh start psychology. Now, so often when we are in the middle of a goal or trying to achieve something, we end up hitting some sort of impasse, some sort of wall that says we can't get past it. And we have one of two ways we can go. Either we can give up completely or we can push through that obstacle. Now, I know that you're the type of person that pushes through obstacles, Jordan, but some of our listeners may not be. See what I did there? I elevated you. I did. So what we need to do is tweak this out, and I have got a beautiful way to do that called Fresh Start Psychology. Now, when there's a new year, often we make New Year's resolutions, and that can be fantastic. But how many people stick to their New Year's resolutions? Do you have any idea, Jordan? What's the percentage?
I'm going to go 7%.
Oh, that was pretty good. 17%.
Okay.
17% on average stick to their New Year's resolutions. Now, even if we're having a look at something more serious, this shows the percentage of people sticking to their cancer, diabetes, and CVD, which is a heart-related situation, medications. So 55% take their medication for their life-threatening disease on time and when they should. 55%. So when we think about that, it is a travesty, because we are looking at people who have got sometimes years to live, sometimes months to live, who are saying, I can't be bothered taking my medication. Now, if it is in such an extreme circumstance that happens, can you imagine how it is for all of us mere mortals who are just trying to get the dishes done or wash our car or remember to do the dishwasher? We let ourselves down all the time, and we don't form habits to assist. We don't initiate new habits, and we certainly don't have a maintenance schedule. And over the next few episodes, we're going to delve into this more specifically. I'm going to show you how to initiate new habits and choose those habits in the first place and maintain those habits so that you can put parts of your life on autopilot. Does that sound like a good plan?
I'm in. Let's do it.
So starting with fresh start psychology. Now, the idea is behind a fresh start is that you can actually just decide to really make anything a fresh start. It will hopefully take you from looking like this to looking like this, which is really going to assist your life. Now, this little guy, he's cute, isn't he? He's a little baboon for those of you listening to an audio compared to watching the screen. He decided to take some selfies with a photographer's camera in the middle of the Amazon. He became incredibly famous, and looking at his little behavior there, where he's not really sure of himself and then he's smiling at the camera, he duplicated the behavior of others. So that monkey see, monkey do is very much alive and well. Now, with Fresh Start Psychology, you can have anything as a trigger. They've even found that when people walk through a doorway, that can be a fresh start. Have you ever gone from one room to another and you've forgotten what you were going into that second room for, Jordan?
Just before recording this, I walked in a room to fill a glass of water and then forgot to bring it back. Yep, I still have.
Absolutely. Now, that is because every doorway is actually a fresh start. Now, they've found this with Alzheimer's patients as well. That I'm not
Hang on. Whoa.
I'm not inferring that, John. But definitely walking through that doorway, it is a transition from one state to another as symbolized by the doorway. Now, you can use that doorway to trigger a change in your mood. You can say, whenever I walk through the front door, I'm going to put a smile on my face. Whenever I go through that boardroom door, I'm going to be powerful. You can use a doorway as a fresh start. And I think that can be an absolute winner of a way to go. Finding an everyday cue that you can use to signify a new behavior. So what you do is you attach a landmark or a milestone as a symbolic pin in your map of reality. So it's a mental accounting method. It allows you to leave past mistakes behind and start again with enthusiasm. If you think of the way children respond, children don't need this. Every minute is a fresh start. They can have amazing resilience because they're just bouncing along and they're not actually pinning any emotional attachment to a particular area or state. Whereas as we grow, we tend to attach a lot of emotional significance to different states, and that can actually drive us completely crazy. As a trader, what do we need a fresh start for? Do you feel that you've ever had to start again, Jordan, with trading?
Plenty of times. Plenty of times. I always actually subconsciously do this without realizing until you've brought it to attention here is new day, new dollar, the old saying, right? New day, new dollar, but also making sure I have a space for trading and trading only. And I can walk in and walk out of it at the end of the day, walk in it at the beginning of the day. And it is like, okay, focus time. Now we get back in. It's kind of that refresh.
I like that. There's actually a study done by researchers in London, and they examined traders to see how far did they go with this, what was their propensity for fresh start psychology, and the best traders had the largest fresh start psychology mindsets as a part of a growth mindset. It's something that you can force into your own self if you're not immediately an optimistic fresh start type of person. You can actually learn those skills, and a lot of it is surrounding yourself with people who have that view. We become like those we associate with. So the other aspect that I wanted to touch on is locus of control. Are you familiar with locus of control, Jordan?
I'm not. No, this is the first time I've heard of it.
This is very much related to fresh start psychology, but I apply this everywhere. To me, this is a core principle that you can use to apply not only to trading, to every part of your life. Now, locus of control is who do you feel is blamed? I'll see if I can describe it for you, and we'll see if we can apply it to the trading arena. When you make a loss, do you blame your spouse, the weather, the dog, the brokerage platform, or do you blame yourself? And it's not necessarily that one's better than the other, and you'll see why in just a moment. It's who do you attribute blame to? Now, if you've got an external locus of control, as a trader, you'll experience a lot of self-doubt.
Yeah.
You'll blame your broker, your spouse, the experts, the newsletter. You'll blame an external source. But you'll also have trouble learning from past experiences because you're not taking on that personal responsibility for that big profit or for that loss. It's something that because you're blaming external circumstances, you even blame them when things go well. Traders with an external locus of control try to prove that they're right. Their ego gets out of whack. They don't minimize their losses when a trade kicks off, when they could get out at an initial stop loss. They hang on in there until the loss is huge. They react emotionally. But the plus is sometimes they'll hang around longer because they won't quit because they think, well, it's their fault. It's not my fault. I'm still a goddamn god here, so I can continue and I can do fine. So we have to be careful as to what percentage of internal versus external locus of control that we have. The external locus of control people with that blame, that is generally negative for a trader and is generally not represented in the upper echelons of the elite trading world. Have you heard people who have blamed and have that external locus of control, Jordan?
Yes, I honestly I want to say a random figure of 80% of the traders I've spoken to, especially the newer ones, have that external locus. Is it?
Locus, LOCUS.
Yeah, that external locus of control, because we I hear it all the time, and it's something which I'm quite proud of, that I've dropped that blame game, at least in passing, right? Because I don't care about whether my trade ends in profit or loss for that individual trade. Now, over a time period, well, then yes, I'm at fault. I'll blame myself, be like, I obviously haven't done something, or my plan's not done what it needs to do, so I need to improve that plan. Right? It's how I look at it. Whereas you get a lot of people, and even some educators in the space, that say things like they got stop hunted, or that they've got the big money was against me, or something like that. Of finding these ways to shift that blame, so they're not responsible for it, and then they can act, well, as you've mentioned. Well, I've not done anything wrong. That they did this to hurt me. I should go again when they're not there. And it's just kind of like, well, I don't overly agree with that, but I see that kind of mindset in 85% of the traders in which I've spoken to.
It's interesting you mention about people in the industry, because if you look at their advertising, when they're advertising a newsletter, often they're saying, trust me. They're not saying those words, because ASIC wouldn't really like that. But if you think about reading between the lines, they're saying, trust me, I'm an external source. You can trust me, but you can also blame me. You can say to your wife or your husband, well, I didn't win, but it was because it was in the newsletter. It gives you an out. And that can be a very ego controlling aspect. You can make yourself feel better because you can blame that external source. They use it in their advertising. It's interesting to become aware of that. The type of people that they hook in with that tend to have that external locus of control. They're looking for a fund manager or a money manager to look after their money. They're not willing to take that responsibility themselves. But if we look at the stats and we look at the figures, we know those fund managers actually underperform the majority of cases. They underperform the markets. They're only at or slightly below the percentage points earned each year by the All Ords in Australia, or by the US indices, by the UK indices. They are not outperforming. But why do they attract so many people? Because so many people want to have that comfort. They want to delegate that. So let's look at traders with an internal locus of control, because this is generally where we should try and aspire to be. As I said, there are aspects of each that are positive for a trader. So you'll never get completely on the spectrum of internal versus external. You'll never get completely over to internal, and that's okay. But an awareness, I think, is very important. Internal locus of control traders have a realistic understanding of their own abilities. They know where they need to delegate. For me, I dislike keeping the books. I don't like BAS statements. I do not feel comfortable with that. Many years ago, my husband handed over the bookkeeping to me. I balanced it. $4.17, that's all I was out. $4.17. I thought it was great. I was really proud of myself, because I just went, hey, I'm so close. I'll just put in the $4.17 from another account and it'll be fine. I could not work out why he was not impressed with that. Yes.
Payback for the hole in one.
Yes, exactly. So he's a very understanding and patient man. So I know within myself that is not a skill set of mine. So I allow myself to delegate that to my husband. Traders with an internal locus of control, they know that they are completely responsible for their own actions. And even if they're not, they imagine that they are. They control the things that they can control, and everything else they let go, they release. And that release allows a lot of psychological ease to seep into their life. These types of traders, they don't rely predominantly on external advice. So generally you won't find them using a tip sheet or a newsletter or some sort of algo method that they don't have responsibility for, or a black box method. They prefer to learn from experts, have mentors and coaches to guide them to shine those lights into their blind spot, but for them to be responsible for their own trading plan and their own trading methods. That sits with them better because they know that they can learn from that more specifically. And they also know they can't control the markets, they can only control themselves, and they aim, not at all times, but they try to react objectively. Now, that to me is not only something that I am aiming to aspire to in everyday life and in trading, but it has also been shown that traders with that internal locus of control make more money than traders with the external locus of control. So it's interesting, isn't it? It is a little bit of a blend in some areas of your life. Just because you have it in one area doesn't mean it will generalize across the board. But as traders, to aim for that internal locus of control, I think is extremely important. I'd like your thoughts, Jordan.
Yeah, preaching to the choir. This is something I've been trying to address for so long, and I talk about it in the streams because when we're publicly trading, and you would know this being in the public eye as well, one of the questions you get so often is, what is your strategy? What is your strategy? How do you trade the market? And every time I don't share it. I'm like, I can tell you it won't happen anyway, because it's really feeding that need to shift blame, right? It's really feeding that you do the hard work, I'll just make the money
Yeah.
type mindset. And I found the only time I really started finding success in the market was when I built the strategy. Now, yes, I took bits from where I learned here and I learned here and I learned here, but it was until I did the hard yakka of studying it, the back testing, the forward testing, the altering it to suit what I wanted. I knew what I was capable of because of that strategy. I know what drawdowns could be around the corner, so I know how to manage my risk for it. I know what my win streaks look like. And when I start beating those win streaks, I know that it's going to start coming to an end because this is so out of character. So I start managing my risk more carefully as I'm on those big win streaks. I know my strategy back to front. And that's all because I looked internally and I built it and I sat there and I really focused on it. And that's what I think that's what you're addressing there. I've just gone on a bit of a tangent there, but that's something I always try to explain to people is don't take the black box method. Right? Don't take someone else's and do it. You can make it yours, but you have to make it yours. You have to put the hard yakka in, understand it, to trust it, and then to be responsible when it doesn't work, know how to fix it, and then move forward again. And constantly, it's trading. You don't get a system and it works and happy days, you're rich for the rest of your life. You've got to constantly be adapting. And that's something I've been shouting down these cameras for the past year, Louise. So it's just beautiful.
Oh, this is great. And I do think it comes down to how you define balance. If you think about balance, often I think a tightrope is a good strategy in terms of a metaphor, where you can't just walk across a tightrope or a slack line. I don't know if you've ever tried that. I tried it.
I want to.
Yeah, it's full on. It's yes, it's extraordinarily tricky. You would think, how hard can it be? I'm just walking in a straight line. No. It is really, really, really hard. So with a slack line, it's about that wide, and it's literally one foot in front of the other. But we've got these things called hips and shoulders, so they stick out over the line. So you're constantly twitching from one side to another. So to create balance, you have to make a series of minor adjustments. You can't just walk straight and expect it to work. You actually need to, slightly correct, slightly course correct. I'm tilting slightly. Okay, quickly over to the other side. And it's a lot to do with core strength, which is right down in that center of your body. I do think that is a better metaphor for the way traders need to incorporate that balance, slight adjustments, but with the overall goal in mind. And the other aspect that I got from that whole experience was you don't look down. You definitely don't look behind you. You only look at the goal right in front of you, and you maintain your eye contact on that target so that you can maintain that balance. It's surprising how much alignment happens when you keep your eye on that target. Yeah, you got to try that, Jordan.
I know. I'm gonna need. We've got a couple of climbers in the team as well that are always talking. I'm gonna need to. I'm gonna have to test the balance out. Right. That'll be a funny video.
Yeah, yeah, and it does. I'm up for that. I'm definitely up for that. I want to actually see you do that, and then we'll put it as a little clip in one of these segments.
Uh-oh. Okay.
You
I'll
spoke.
go. I'll go find one. I'll go buy one, and let's give it a go. I've got an idea.
When I had a real job 30 years
And a
ago.
real job. Look at that.
Yes.
That's an interesting term.
I used to blame other people all the time. It was best to, because then you didn't get caught with all of the extra assignments, the lower budget for your division. It just seemed to me that that's how the corporate world set you up, to try and blame. But one day I stopped cold turkey. I just decided not to blame again, just to take it all on. And it was amazing from that moment how my life turned around, not only financially, but also emotionally. If you're having a fight with a friend, if you say, well, what have I done to contribute? I think that is a very noble question, rather than just blaming your friend. Holding yourself accountable is key. Now, I want to talk about some of the things that we can do to hold ourselves accountable as a topic. Sometimes as a trader, we don't know what we should be developing. We don't know what habits should we be formulating to achieve success. So I want to talk about some of the specifics here, and I'd love your thoughts on that. So I'm going to separate this out. I'll ask 2 questions, then another 2 questions, and I'd like your thoughts, Jordan.
Okay.
So firstly, for everybody following along, pull out a notebook and answer these questions. What habits are you looking to develop outside the financial markets? And what trading habits do you want to develop? So, Jordan, outside the financial markets, what habits do you want to develop, and what habits do you want to develop in the markets? And just do it briefly, because, we've got some other things coming.
There are a few different things. I want to read more. So that's one habit outside of trading. I want to read more. And then inside of trading, I want to be calmer. I want to be calmer when I'm pulling the trigger or doing my analysis. Sometimes I can get worked up in my analysis. I want to be calmer.
So, aside from the extra 2 questions I'm about to ask, they're great. They're fantastic. So what I'd like to see is a bit more specificity. So what does calmer mean to you? What do you mean by being calmer? Is there something that you can make it more specific so that you know that you've achieved it? And that's the type of, we don't have time on today's show to do that, but for everybody playing along, think about those goals, but think of how you'll know you've achieved them. So you've got a general direction there, which is calmness and clarity, and of course reading. So let's do the reading, because I think that's easier. So the reading, how many books would you like to read in a month?
2.
Excellent. Let's call it 1. We're going to make this really totally achievable. Okay, we don't want to set a goal that's way out in front of us, because we're unlikely to believe it. So we'll do some more on that in future segments, but let's call it 1 book. All right, so that's the habit we're going to work on. Is there a date or an event that you can use as a fresh start to help you initiate this change? What can you do in your life, Jordan, that would trigger, I'm going to start reading now? That's what that question's about. And then one more question is, what does your future self look like 1, 3, 5 years from now, cultivating this habit now? So is there a current event or a time frame that you can put on this to start? And what does your future self look like because of it?
I can start tomorrow or today, as soon as possible. And I think in 2 or 3 years' time, being able to expand my knowledge through those books, it'll make me a more complete and more aware person.
I'm loving that. So these questions can help you refine the type of skill that you're looking to develop, the type of habit that you're looking to incorporate in your life. It can give you an initiation point. So I'd like to develop that a little bit more with you, Jordan, that initiation point, but it can also give you an idea what your future self will look like because you're developing that habit. So hopefully it can be a more rounded version than people just go, well, I want to lose 10 kilos or whatever the usual trite is for New Year's resolutions, that they're not formed. They don't take into account lifestyle. They certainly don't take into account when to start and how you'll know that you've accomplished it. And they don't take into account future self. So looking at your goal, starting one book, you say you can start today or tomorrow, but that means if you can start at any time, you'll probably never start. So can you pin it to something specific? Can you say, when would you prefer to read, morning or evening? Let's just...
Evening.
Okay. So what time do you usually go to bed?
9:30, 10 o'clock.
Can I challenge you to set an alarm for 9 o'clock? Set that alarm for 9 o'clock tonight, and that will be your fresh start. And from now on, you'll start reading at 9 o'clock to 9:30. That still gives you time around your bedtime routine. It's something you can fit into your life. It's a specific plan, and it's something that you feel that you can say, yes, I have done at the end of the day. So it's very specific. So I'm going to challenge you on that one. 9 o'clock, set that alarm for 9 o'clock. That is your fresh start. Now, let's just quickly revise some of the things that we can use as habits as a trader. I want you to consider this in relation to what I've given you in terms of fresh start psychology. We're just starting on this habit expose. This is just the beginning. So we will have other episodes on this because it's such a big area for traders. So what are some of the habits that we can develop as a trader? I have habits around all of these areas. I'll name a few and I'd love your thoughts, Jordan. I set a time and a day to revise my charts and to analyze the markets. I also revise my trading plan, and it's popped into my calendar every 6 months. And I look at the results every 6 months, but I look at the trading plan once a year because I don't tinker with that too much. And I also set a stop loss every single time I trade. And a stop loss, we know that's an order to take you out of the markets if a predetermined level has been hit. What do you think about some of those habits, Jordan?
Yeah, I think they're great. I personally would be analyzing the trading plan and results a little bit more frequently, but I think I might be a bit more frequent of a trader than what you are. So that would make sense as I get that group. Stop losses, absolutely. I've got the same habit. Never a trade without one. I agree. Those are very, very simple fixes, very little habits that you can build early on, which are very important in the future success.
Other habits, I enter my trade details into my portfolio manager immediately. As I mentioned, I have this issue with the whole bookkeeping detail thing. So I find that to overcome that, I don't want miles of paperwork on my desk. I can't enter them all in after the point has been made of maybe 10 trades. I have to do it immediately. Otherwise, I just know that I'm not going to do it and I'm going to end up in a pickle. I have developed a very consistent method of position sizing so that my position size is a very known amount. It's a method that I've used for a very long time, and I don't deviate from that. Even if I think this is a sure thing, I don't bet the farm on it. I also keep up to date with the paperwork required for tax time, just because I've delegated the specifics of compilation, should we say, around tax time. I make sure all the inputs are ready so that I don't drive my husband crazy. What are your thoughts on those habits?
Yeah, good housekeeping habits. That the habit of understanding your position size, I agree with. I've got brackets. And that comes down to confidence through my trading plan. So if it's a trade that everything really ticks the box and I'm confident in it because I've got some fundamental things backing it as well, then I've got a bracket in which my risk is allowed, and vice versa. If I've got a trade that's just set up, like it is a trade, it is a valid setup, but I'm not overly loving it, I've got a lower bracket in which I can position there as well. So I've got kind of a fluctuation between my risk in those positions, which I've found over time has helped me tremendously in generating profits. So I've got little habits in there as well, but understanding my stop loss value a little bit differently than just shares money per share type deal, understanding exactly what my stop loss value is and keeping that reasonably consistent within the brackets is very important to me.
And probably the last one that I'll mention is something that I've found useful is even if I don't have any money left to trade, because we all run out of money after we've maxed out, or even if the market conditions aren't correct for me with my macro filter that tells me that I can trade that particular week, I still run my scans, because otherwise I get out of the habit and I find it very hard to rejig. So hopefully that gives you some ideas about all of the different habits you can form as a trader, and you've got a method for starting them. That fresh start psychology, so that you've got a trigger to begin that new habit, I have found essential. So Jordan, you have just been a star. Thank you so much for playing along and for really giving us an insight into how you trade. I'm just loving these episodes. Any final thoughts?
No, me too. Me too. A pleasure to be here. It's a pleasure to be a part of it. And once again, I hope everyone at home is positioning themselves in my position and answering these questions the same way and digging deep, because this is a very, very unique opportunity for us to be able to work together in the public eye and for everyone to see what can go in and what you can really learn about yourself. So make sure you guys at home, you've got your notepad, you're doing what I'm doing, and you're learning from this, because this is unique.
Lovely. And this is the sort of information that I take people through in my mentor program, but I am giving this to you for free because I care for you, Jordan. I care. So we will join you again next week for Mind Over Markets.
Beautiful. Thank you, Louise.